Hello, Iris J here with Madrona's Pulse Teachings. Welcome back or to my channel. We are talking about the Aquarius New Moon happening on February 9th. We're talking about the new moon. We're also talking about just the dynamic energies that are present in our psyche, body, lives, individually, collective throughout February, because it's a pretty dynamic month. We really got pulled into 2024 this year. And so why do I say that? There's a couple things that are going on throughout this month. And really, we have the new moon in Aquarius and the full moon towards the end of the month in Virgo, really working in a cycle of revelation, perhaps, and of illumination and of seeding ideas. And so what's going on in February? One aspect that's happening throughout the entire month is that Saturn, there in Pisces, is in a sextile with Jupiter, who's in Taurus. And this is really supportive energy. It is also supportive to the processes that we are within, I should say, because it's, that Saturn and Pisces is clearing things out. It is shifting boundaries. It is shifting border lines in our lives. And it depends where we have Pisces, but it's wanting to clean out and definitely end some cycles so that new beginnings and kind of a higher elevation of ourselves can manifest. And that's talking to Jupiter and Taurus, which is potentially inviting expansion, especially because Jupiter is now direct, finally moved off from that 5-degree point. And there's this conversation going on for the entire month of February. They're in a pretty close orb, we call it, or just relationship in this aspect. And so that's something that we're working with for the entire month, and that's absolutely present in our new moon, and it's definitely present in our full moon. Then what else is going on in February? We also have in this month a conjunction of Chiron and the North Node at 16 degrees of Aries. This is really significant. It's significant when this happens. It's significant in terms of the bigger cycles that we're coming into, especially with our recent kind of Pluto entering into Aquarius. And this energy is really, really inviting us to step up a bit in terms of ourself, in terms of our healing, in terms of recognizing parts of ourselves that we might have turned a shoulder to or been taught not to acknowledge. And this conjunction of Aries in the North Node is potentially showing us, as I like to say, that there's bits of gold in those parts of ourselves that we're taught not to acknowledge. I am so excited about this particular aspect that I'm offering a free Zoom workshop on it. You can access it. You do have to access it through my Patreon group where I'm doing teaching and we're just doing amazing things there. And so I'll link that below if you're interested in seeing what live self-inquiry, juicy astrology workshops are like with me. You are welcome to come. And the other dynamic energy that this moon cycle is framed within is that we have several planets conjuncting Pluto. We have Mercury, that's happening just before our new moon. We have Mars moving, so these planets are moving from Capricorn into Aquarius, and to do that they got to pass through the gate holder. Mr. Pluto is sitting there at 0 degrees, and Mercury will go through. Mars will be at 27 degrees of Capricorn during our new moon, so it's in its conjunction with Pluto at the time of our new moon. And then the last but certainly not least will be Venus. And so all three of these planets will conjunct Pluto, meaning that they're also coming into a new cycle in the relationship between those two archetypes in the collective, and then how that always speaks to our individual lives, which is where looking at transits in our natal charts is fascinating. And this is important because this is three major parts, especially these are planets Mercury, Mars, and Venus that are part of our personal shifting psyche in a very, very personal way. And so in the transit with these planets conjuncting Pluto, there's a new cycle coming through. There's also potentially a death coming through. It's really inviting a much higher manifestation and ability to access the archetypes of Mercury, Mars, and Venus, because it is happening as Pluto has just moved into Aquarius, when we are definitely entering an era of being called into higher elevations of what human consciousness can be. And so this is a really dynamic month. I'm already 6 minutes in, and I've just been talking about all of the February conversations that are going on as we come in to this new moon. So let's talk about this new moon specifically and how it's talking to everything that I just mentioned. If this is your first time on my channel, welcome. Please do subscribe if you are interested in astrology, spirituality, all these wonderful modalities that we have for making sense of and finding new ways to make sense of our journeys and experiences that we're all on. And Aquarius New Moon. So the sun and the moon are together. They are at 20 degrees, 40 minutes of Aquarius. Traditionally, the new moon this is the time of the dark moon. This is a time of setting intentions, of hopefully cultivating a little bit of quiet from the constant noise and static that can get in here, let alone what's going on in our small communities and in the globe, and getting quiet so that we can listen. The new moon is a wonderful time for developing a practice of deep listening, because that is what the new moon is really inviting. Deep listening, and to see what seeds want to be planted, what is shifting in us. And this is happening within kind of every 2 weeks. We're working with the moon and this new moon, and then moving into the illumination of the full moon. And so we're always in these cycles of shifting. And what is this particular cycle? Oh, Aquarius New Moon. Oh, Aquarius is pretty big because we just had Pluto enter Aquarius. Oh, who's the ruler of Aquarius? It's Uranus in modern and evolutionary astrology. And what do you know, folks? This new moon is squaring Uranus, okay? So we have got the sun and the moon in Aquarius around between 20 and 21 degrees, and they are squaring Uranus, who's recently stationed direct at 19 degrees of Taurus. So if you have anything right around the 19 degree of Taurus mark, if you have anything right around that 21 degree of Aquarius, you always want to look at your chart and have a peek at what's there. And also if you have anything at 21 degrees of Leo, because that's opposite Aquarius, and that is still squaring Uranus there in Taurus. Uranus is a change maker. Uranus is about, when Uranus is transiting, and when it's an aspect with transiting Uranus, it's a change maker. It's a radical awakener. It is seeking liberation. It is seeking liberation in a way that is authentic to each one of us as we relate to our collective groups and our intersecting collective groups. And ultimately, Uranus and Aquarius are also about the big collective of humanity, and about how it's so important for all of us to listen to what we call, with the Aquarius and Uranus archetypes, a type of higher mind call of the self to awaken to what we as individuals came here to awaken to, in this spin around the wheel, and also what humans are here to awaken to collectively, what these elevations of consciousness can achieve. This is the archetype of both Uranus and Aquarius, and we have an Aquarius new moon square Uranus. So we could have some radical changes. And again, they could be sudden. When Uranus is present, it can be sudden. Things can change very quickly. This could also be planting seeds of radical awakenings. This could be also, Aquarius is our groups, and that's where we have the new moon, and it's squaring that Uranus, who's been at 19 degrees of Taurus before. Okay, and we have worked with Uranus at this point, and now Uranus is going to move on, and that's it in our lifetime. We're never going to have Uranus back at this 19-degree point. So this also could be something in our rooted sense of self, in our values, those Taurus values. What values have been shifting? What has been changing? How are you ready to embody, Taurus, your deep values that are authentic to you? Maybe not to what we were taught, maybe not to what social media is telling us we should care about, maybe not even to partners and friends. Like, this is radically about us. And squaring that new moon, it could shift our dynamics. It could shift dynamics in groups we're part of. These could be work groups. These could just be communities that we're part of. Our communities might be changing. We might be being called into a different role to embody that's really bringing our values into a higher elevation in the way that we show up in the collective, which can be very small groups. It's still the collective coming through and the individuals that are present. But something most likely is being shaken, and there's always a call with Uranus for radical awakening in our authentic self. And that word authentic, we can talk about that word for such a long time because it sounds so simple, but it's actually a very complicated word to work with. And when we come at it from evolutionary astrology, that word authentic is also about our soul. It's about our higher mind. It's about what we're here to learn with and evolve with and transform and heal with during this life. And on the note of healing, we also have the new moon in a sextile to the North Node and Chiron. Remember, I talked about them, they're conjunct. So that's significant because while there is this, shift and pull, and we could be feeling called into something, we could be living with radically different rhythms in our daily life and our lives. And with this shift of Pluto into Aquarius, I know clients I've had in the past just 10 days have been mentioning that they're feeling something different. And with that Chiron in Aries conjunct the North Node, also it's just strong energy throughout this month, but it's also talking to this new moon. This is deeply personal. Aries is our self. It's our sense of self. It's our primal sense of self. There's a rawness to it. And there could be a rawness to things could be coming up. And it's supportive. It's supportive to this new moon. It's supportive to whatever these changes that we're feeling or planting seeds with or feeling are going to become much bigger as we move into 2024. But it is also Chiron, and Chiron is the wounded healer. Chiron is a soul wound. It's an archetype of a soul wound that we come in with, and it is deep and it is beyond this life, but then it rings through in certain experiences of this life. And there could be a healing going on this month, definitely feeling it coming through at this new moon. And then it's going to become much stronger as we move into that complete exact conjunction between Chiron and the North Node. But that this healing could also really be, as I was saying when I was talking about this in the beginning, these could be parts of ourself that we were taught to turn away from, think are bad, hold shame for. And Chiron conjunct the North Node is no, there's gold in there. Whether this is our personal traumas that come from childhood and the intersections of social realities like classism, racism, homophobia, ableism, all the ways that these different complicated our identities and social norms create very real and embodied and lived difficulties, and also just create shame. And then whatever our personal stories and in our families, there's so much that we carry as humans. And the North Node conjuncts Aries, and it's like we can first of all, we can let the shame go. Okay, that's also the South Node in Libra. We can let the shame go, and we can find the parts of ourselves that we might have also thrown away, like creativity, like our knowing what we're worth, like our self-worth, like something that maybe we loved, and along the line over and over someone told us it wasn't worth it, you weren't going to make a living out of that, it's not valid, it's not good, it's not right, all these words. That's all other people's views. Aries feels it. Aries knows that this is me. This is part of what my flame is in this life. And so it's wanting to kind of bring up the parts of ourselves that we might have turned away from or we might have silenced, and to see how they're actually part of our courageous self that can help us expand and can help us come into the radical authenticity that this new moon is planting seeds for. Okay. And also just, mentioning again that Mars is coming into a conjunction with Pluto, and they're close enough that they're conjunct during this new moon. Mars conjuncting Pluto is intense energy. They're both about desire. Pluto is a deep, deep, deep soul desire. Mars is kind of that more personal desire that allows us to have this yang drive that takes us into the world, that helps us have a healthy ambition. Sometimes we have to unpack what we've been taught about ambition, but Mars is there to be healthy and to be a drive, and yet it's intense energy when these planets come together, these archetypes come together. And so just being aware that there is also this energy that is churning, and that churning is absolutely allowing there to be, ideally, a death of those Mars archetypes that are just about aggression, that are just about ambition for the sake of proving oneself to the world, when really there might be a lack of a sense of self there because it's not aligned with one's own inherent, what my passions are, what my truths are. This is important because Mars is the ruler of Aries. And Aries, we got that North Node conjunct Chiron talking to this new moon. So there's just so many layers. Astrology, I always say this, but you can't say it enough. Astrology is just layers and layers and layers, and learning to listen to the way that all the layers are talking with each other and changing each other. And this is why just learning kind of the inherent foundations of archetypes is important. It's where we start, but it's not enough when we're really practicing and getting into the intricacies of astrology. And unfortunately, pop astrology is just often repeating kind of isolated archetypes, but the archetypes shift in their living and their breathing and their pulsing, and they are speaking with each other. And when they speak with each other, they merge and they manifest new archetypes, and then we all embody them differently based on our natal chart. And it is this fascinating process of meaning making that we can be part of. And so I'm going to leave it at that, knowing that then we're going to come into the Virgo full moon, and I'll have another video on that, if not two. And we're going to still be working with some of these themes of February, but they're going to be manifesting in that very the full moon is about illumination. And so we're going to be having potentially more insights coming then, but they're going to be related to what's going on now. And all of February is quite dynamic. And so I am sending out blessings to you all, and I will see you when I see you. Take care.